Hello, in this video I'm going to show you how to use the FocusState feature to add functionalities to the button on your keyboard that I showed you in the last video how to add this button here that says next. All it does right now is dismiss the keyboard, and I showed you how to get this one to say done, and that's using this, what you see right here, these submit labels. Then I even added an on submit that had an alert pop up, so if we hit done here we get this pop up. But the functionality we're looking for is when the cursor is in here and you put your, oh sorry, I'm going to go back and make sure I have the virtual keyboard on. Let's say you put in a name and you hit next. You would like to see the cursor come to the entered email text field. And so I'm going to show you how to do that using FocusState. And let's look at the top of this. I'm going to stop the virtual. So let's look at this. At the top of our class right now, we have the state variables, one for name, email, street, and zip, which are each of our text fields, right? And so what we're going to do is create a focus state for each of them. And so that's what it looks like. You would put this right underneath your state variables, and you use the keyword FocusState and give it a name. And we're going to enumerate through these using, again, these names must match what you used up here, and them also must match what you have down in your text field here, right? And so first thing though is this function here that will enumerate over them. Then the next thing I'm going to show you is you're going to add to your, so for our first one here, it's a name. On that text field, I'm going to add this dot focused and the name of our function, which is focus field, right? And we're going to set it equal to name, so that when the cursor comes into this text field, it's going to be equal to name as the focus state. And so we can do that for each of these, just changing name to whatever it is. So this one, it's email. Go down here and make this one street, right? And lastly, make this one zip. There we go. All right, and so we have one for each of them. So now what we want to do is make it so that when I click the next field, it will actually go and find the next focus state that I wanted to. And so there's a little function that I need to create to achieve that. And I'm going to show you that. I have the whole thing here. I'll share all this code with you. But you're going to go to the end of your body tag. Right after that, I'm going to add this function. And I call it determine field. So it's used to determine which field we should be putting our cursor in next. And it's a simple switch case. You don't really need this print, but it's a simple switch case logic that we're using here. What is the focus field? If it is name, then now it should be email. That's how this works. If it's email, then it should be street. If it's street, then it should be zip. If it's zip, then we're done. And so we can just make focus field nil. And this is just printing out just to make sure that worked. And then the default is focus field nil. And so let's look at how you implement that. Again, not too difficult. We're going to use our on submit. Actually, before I even do that, I'm going to show you this. So the right here is our last field is zip, and I have this button that's right underneath that, and then the end of our form here, and we have our title. And so I'm going to put this, so attached to our form, what this says is when this form appears, when it first comes on the screen, we're going to make the focus field equal to name, which is our first text field. So that's kind of a nice feature. Let's show you how that works. So it should be that when this pops up, the cursor, yep, great. So the cursor automatically is in our enter name text field, and the virtual keyboard came up. Awesome. All right, so nothing's going to work yet when I hit next. It's just going to dismiss because we need to actually call that function that we created, and how we call it is right here. We're going to use the on submit, and instead of saying code in there, we're going to say determine field, which is that's the function we created. And so we need that for each of these, right? Oh, that's zip, and this one is email, and here's our first one, name. So now if we go ahead and run this, you'll see I have my cursor in here. I can put in my name and then hit next, and there we go. It pops in. I'm not even going to finish this, but I'll hit next, and that's working perfectly. Just putting anything in there, and that's great. And this one shouldn't really do anything, just dismisses and submits the form. So that is perfect. Hopefully that was easy enough to follow along, but please let me know if you have any questions. But it's a great feature that you can add to your forms.